Hello and welcome to another Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan Steele and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. Hello everybody out there in Gamerland. We're going to try and make the Weekend Bryan relatively fast. I know I say that every week, but I'm really going to try and stick to it this time. A lot of people are dealing with a lot of stuff out there. Kind of a public service announcement. If you are American and you're watching this video, we're dealing with it right now. The wake, the wake left behind of the tractor trailer size mistake that a bunch of people created in this country, and it is going to be hard. Unless something is done and something is somehow repaired, the next 4 years are going to be pretty rough. So before I get started on my normal, everyday, chipper, positive self, I just want to say I'm here with you. I see you. I understand. You are safe with me. And if I can help in any way, please let me know. All right. Week in life, personal. So I went to the doctor. Actually, I went to two doctors technically this week. And while I was at the first doctor's appointment, I asked about my tennis elbow, and they gave me some awesome anti-inflammatories, which I've been taking for a couple of days, and it feels good. Actually, I barely even any pressure. So I'm giving it a day to kind of catch up and relax, and then I will probably start, getting back to the gym and strengthening back up and lose this weight because it has been dragging on me for too long. Ever since the wonderful little puppy Mia has joined our family, stress has been high, sleep has been low, and it is what it is. But we love her to death. And it is simply a factor of life that I have to deal with. Hopefully, everything will heal up, and I'll get back to how things are supposed to be, and we will get back to hitting the gym 3 times a week when I have the time, the bandwidth, and the general mental ability to do so. Stress is a factor. Let's see, what else? Gaming wise, I mentioned last week that I was supposed to play our Rifts game this last weekend, but my dear friend, one of the guys that is in the Rifts game, is dealing with some family stuff, and this next session is going to be really combat intense, and we could really use our gunslinger. So we postponed it until this week. So I have another one. Sorry, my eye is doing a weird twitchy thing. I don't know if I live on camera. Bryan freaks out. So that's a thing that we pushed off until this week, so I get that. But last weekend was 2 very cool things. My buddy's birthday celebration that he throws every year, at which place got a chance to take a look at some cool board games and got to play two Commander Magic games with my buddies. And both of which, one was with an untested deck, and the other one was with a deck that I've used before, but the Magic Gods were not with me, and I have not performed worse. But it was fun. We had a good time. It's always, even if you're it's always fun to play against these guys, because even if I'm losing, we're still just kind of joking and having a good time, and it's just nice to. It's not like cutthroat or anything. We're just having a good time. So I had a good time for a few hours losing. And then the following day, we had the D&D game where I'm the drunk halfling monk, that we fought a big bad. We fought a kind of super demon hag named Old Natty. And it was definitely a homebrew creature that Albert came up with, and it was a very tough fight. If you did not know how to do radiant damage, and if you'll note, as a drunken monk, that is not in my repertoire. But it was a lot of good moments and fighting, and there was a little bit of a narrative kind of like in between the rounds. Old Natty has something to say, and for someone who's played in Albert's world in Minheriath, in his world for as long as we have, various campaigns and various characters and timelines and things. She did a name drop during that fight that some of the people around the table have no reason to know. But there were a few of us that as soon as she did that name drop, we all kind of looked at Albert like, oh. So I'll be interested to see how that connection to an old character, how that will come around, because that's pretty cool. It's one of the reasons why I like playing in some of these homebrew worlds that go as long as they do and as many campaigns as they do, because you do get kind of echoes of the past, and that was a cool moment. Even it's a fun way for Albert or anybody who runs those kind of games to throw in a little bit of a spice in the middle of a combat. Combats can get a little sloggy when it comes to, okay, it's my turn. Oh, it's not my turn. Okay, I'll go think about something else. And it was fun. It was a neat little kind of bring you into the moment. Oh man, she just name dropped that person's character. Whoa, so it was cool. That was a lot of fun. And then this upcoming weekend, we have the Evil Genius Games is putting on NachoCon Online, or the Nacho Con Line, I believe. Nacho Con Online. I don't know. I think it's Nacho Con Line is the phrase. Basically, it's our Everyday Heroes celebration of everything Everyday Heroes. I am going to be doing a panel on Saturday talking about world creation, like world design. Specifically, I'm sure I'll probably get questions about Throne World, and maybe some of my other side projects and things. But it's sure to be a great time. If you go to our Discord and go to the NachoCon Line thread, there's a bunch of prompts in there. It's a free convention that you'll be able to jump on and maybe play some games or listen to some panels or whatnot. So follow the links to the Discord and come join us. It should be a ton of fun. That said, Saturday night, my son and I are going to go join his godfather and a couple of our other friends to play some Magic. Connor's godfather is going through some stuff, and can't really leave the house very much, and we're bringing the party to him. Give him a little uplift and a little break away from the heavy that is surrounding him at the moment. So that'll be fun. And then I'm bringing Connor along because Connor used to play Magic with me all the time. He hasn't in a while, but he has shown a little bit of interest in kind of the bigger, cooler format, the Commander format that we were talking about. So yeah, we're gonna uproot him from his computer and his Xbox and things for a few hours, and come sling some cards and play with Dad and friends. Yeah, so that's probably all the gaming. Hobby stuff. I know you're sick of hearing it, and I think my wife and I are sick of seeing the glue. We're Tinkerturf all day, every day. We've still got a couple of boxes left to get slung together before Adepticon, and here in a week or so, I got to actually order some more storage tubs. in order to store some of this terrain. It's a hell of a project. But we're very thankful for the stuff that they sent, and I think at last time I checked, Adepticon, I think there's only like four spaces left for the tournament. So it's selling out, which is awesome. I think that there may actually be some, by the time that when we send out the fulfillment and stuff, more on that here in a second. I foresee that we may actually get like a waiting list, which is absolutely humbling. But as you will see in this episode, that you will note, we are ready. We are ready for it to happen. But that's all my hobbying. I thought about trying to get some paint on some GaryCon figures the other day when our internet died, but then I was like, no way, I can glue more Tinker Turf together. So priorities, I suppose. Yeah, so that's really all that. Let's get into the work stuff. I'm starting to do a little more work with the Gaxworks guys, Luke Gygax and Matt Everhart. I'm doing a lot of kind of spot development, a little bit of like writing here and there. Not like super extensive, but I know that they're getting ramped up and getting prepped for GaryCon, and some of these adventures that we're working on are going to be ready for that, need to be ready for that show. So it's become kind of I wouldn't say a priority, it's a side priority. The Xeogenesis stuff proceeds as expected. I didn't end up getting that. I wanted to get another playtest game in with the army that I did the development for, but it didn't happen. My opponent was not available, so sadly that did not happen. But I'm still confident that we'll be able to squeak it in here, soon, or sooner rather than later. Let's see what else. Got a little bit of writing done on the World of Drashar, the bad guys. I wanted to get more in. I actually have a lunch this afternoon with the owner of that company to talk about the project in a whole. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping he's happy with how things are progressing. I know I haven't had a lot of extra time to be able to throw into it, just because it's been kind of a whirlwind around here lately. Evil Dead 2 progresses, waiting to hear back on a few concepts that we're thinking about throwing into the book. Still throwing words down on Shadowrun. Just a lot going on. Evil Genius stuff. Just finished up a cool adventure that is a sprinkling of intergalactic heroes into everyday heroes. We launched the Sidekick app, which is our library of works through Evil Genius. I will put the link to that up in my description of the video. Please use that link if you're going to go check it out and hopefully subscribe. I think just by being a free member, you get to peruse some of our main books, and then for like $5 a month or $4 a month if you do the whole year all at once, you get access. I think we're up to 60 files, 60 different publications. So you should totally check it out, and please use the link to do so, because it will show that my outreach is working. So I've started working on the next project. We are so close to being able to call the Intergalactic Heroes manuscript kind of done with its development, and now we get to move into the next stage of starting to move into like the production part, the editing and the layout and the art and the all the stuff that you really want, all the stuff that takes forever. Is we're almost ready to kind of break into that part of the marathon. So super psyched on that. Started putting words down on the Game Master's Guide as well. Some of it is translation from previous rules documents that we need to put into the Game Master Guide. And then here pretty soon, I'll need to be able to reach out to some the writers that have kind of already raised their hand to be part of the adventure writing process. So yeah, no, that project is going strong, and I've got another adventure / supplement that I don't think it's actually due out until like April. But I'll need to start putting words down on it pretty soon, and that should be a lot of fun. I don't know if I can talk about it yet though, so I should probably not. But it should be fun. It's a slice of life supplement, like a time chunk. Like, check out this cool era that could be fun to play. And so it's an adventure and some supplementary information to play in that area, or in that era. And then Warzone. So Warzone is doing great. We by the time this comes out, by the time this video releases, we should be expected to start. I should be able to start loading up the digital assets of the tournament kit into the drive. And start packing them. I mean, the physical stuff is packed and ready to go. I just need to get everything onto the drives and into the envelopes and out the door to all you wonderful people who pre-ordered. And then shortly after the pre-order, the final printed rule books, the palette of them, should be reaching Alex. And then it'll be start to pack and start to send. So we'll start to sort and then pack and then send. But yeah, so we are right at the lip of fulfillment. I know it sounds stupid, but never been closer. I mean, like we are absolutely right around the time to hit the big green button and start sending stuff out. So I could not be more excited for that. Which has led me to, over the last week, been doing a ton of cleanup on some of the playtest stuff and some of the pre-playtest stuff. Alex and I have reorganized how our process works on the back end to create these units and test these units. We're really starting to get ready to turn this into a little bit more of a well-oiled machine once the fulfillment starts. And then once the fulfillment is over, we'll set up our web store. So people who are not the backers or the retail backers, who we want to make sure have their product headed to them first, but everybody else will start being able to buy stuff. And then right around the corner is Adepticon, which is what we want to talk about today. So today's topic is the Adepticon 2025 Warzone Eternal Champions Tournament. So here's the trophy. You could have your name on here, which we will discuss that whole process shortly. But I wanted to take today's episode because it's roughly 60 days away. I think when this comes out, it'll be like 62 days or something, but it'll be very, very close before the tournament to actually be upon us. Let me take a sip of my coffee. So the Eternal Champions is roughly 60 days away. Depending on when you watch this, it could be much earlier, or if you're reaching into the Wayback Machine, you've already played. Woo! All right. The Eternal Champions is on Saturday night, from 5 to 11, 6 to 10. Saturday night. I want to say I've got to be there at 5 to set up tables, but it's like from like 6 to 11, I think. But maybe, you know what? Let's go ahead and leave it on the outside and call it like 4 to 11 is when I'm going to be at those tables setting things up and getting people ready. But some questions have come up now that the Adepticon ticketing system is live and has shown the explanation, the verbal explanation of what to bring and what to have. And I wanted to go ahead and walk you guys through the Eternal Champions structure. Now, I'm going to pull this over here. I am using the basic tournament organizers kit style for Eternal Champions. There will be some tweaks and changes. So the people who get so do not be afraid. The people who get the tournament organizers kit because they pre-ordered it to run events at their store, or in their clubs or whatnot. It is not. They're not going to have an edge over you. We're going to walk through the layout right now, so that way everybody knows what they're getting into, and the scenarios are going to be different from the kit to champions. They're going to be possibly laid into a different direction, so forth and so on. So that way, don't feel like just because if you didn't buy a pre-ordered kit that they have some kind of leg up on you. I'm going to run through all of that stuff right now and give you the general idea of how Eternal Champions is going to work, because I don't want any questions. I mean, no, there's going to be questions, but I want to be able to answer as many questions as possible before the actual day of the tournament, because it's a timed event, and the more confusion I can eliminate before the event, the dawning of the event, the more time we'll have to actually set up tables and enjoy and have a good time. So, sorry, I've got like a wild mustache today. All right, so the way this works is there are 3 different types of roles at every tournament. There are the TO, the tournament organizer. For Eternal Champions, it will be me. There are assistant organizers, which I know that I'm going to at least have one. I believe Alex is going to be my assistant organizer at this one, and there may be another person who is there to help. Depending on how many people I've got to wrangle, I might need them. So the TO's word is law. The assistant organizers are kind of like miniature tournament organizers. If they say something at the table, abide by it. If they say, "Hey, go do this thing," that's basically they're the right hand of the TO, and the only person who can step in and correct them, and probably won't, would be the TO, and that's me. All of the things that you will need. So the Eternal Champions requires you to have Res Nova minis. You need to have a copy of the rules, whether it is a rule book or the SRD, I keep calling it SRD, the rules PDF on our website. Basically, you just need to be able to have something that you can refer to quickly at the table if needs be, so it doesn't slow down gameplay. We'll obviously have copies there in case of emergency, but we would really hope that at least one player at each table has their own copy to be able to look through things and flip through stuff. Everybody will need, my eyeball is just, everybody's going to need a force roster that is filled out and checked out through the TO before the event. Basically, when you register, I'm going to take your force roster and check it over. We'll get to more on that, on what exactly your force roster contains here in a second. You will need your player sportsmanship slip and your score calculation sheets. Your score calculation sheet will be mine. I will have that. The TO will have that to keep track of the rankings and things. Your sportsmanship slip is something that you use to rate your fellow opponents at the end of the tournament in order to figure out who is the best sportsman at the event. Let's talk about the tournament structure. First things first. This, I would say, normally from here on out, this first Eternal Champions game is a 40 DP, 40 deployment point game. So your force needs to be at least can be no more than 40 deployment points. If you had to field smaller, you could. You're just kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage, but you just cannot go over. You must be 40 or less. That does mean that the faction assets are very important, which are the things in the rulebook that are like 1 point a piece, allow you to kind of massage some of the numbers and alter some of your figures. The 40 deployment points, you pick a faction. This is the important. This is probably the most important thing. So everyone, focus, listen in, little childrens. The most important part of the kind of narrative style structure that we built for Warzone Eternal is every game pits the Agents of Light against the Servants of Darkness, whether you're being manipulated by them and you have no idea, or whether you're willingly served. That is your own headcanon. That's up to you. You can decide how that works. But what that does mean is that we require you to have 2 force lists, one that is Agents of Light capable and the other is Servants of Darkness capable. They both will be 40 DP, and they both come from the same faction. That is a very important thing that I think people have thought, that they might be able to be like, oh, well, I'll do Brotherhood for my light and then Bauhaus for my dark, or something like that. You pick a faction when you decide, I'm going to come to this tournament, I'm playing Bauhaus. And then you build 2 lists. The 2 lists are, this is an Agents of Light compatible, and this is an Servants of Darkness compatible. Now, it absolutely could be the same list. As long as that list is compatible for both sides, you could just fill out both sides of the form and go, yeah, it's this. I'm comfortable with this list. This is the list that I'm bringing. I don't want to change it. I don't want to buy anything extra. I don't want to switch out a Necromutant or a Cartel agent. I just want to play this list. You absolutely can. You're just going to basically fill out both sides of your Force Org list, your Force list, the same on either side. And the reason for that is because it allows us to verify that people haven't tried to slip some models in or adjust their support point values and things. It's just basically a way for us to make sure that the scenarios that we have baked into Warzone Eternal that are light versus darkness can carry into these tournaments and have that same kind of feel. You can still have that the aspect of some of these models. For instance, like the Redemption Assassin or the Cartel Agent both have the ability to join a Forces of Light force from a corporation. We wanted to make sure that was something that maybe that's like your favorite tactic. Like you love having a Redemption Assassin running around with your Mishima. If you're playing on an Agents of Light side, you'll build that into your list. You'll build your list and make sure that the Redemption Assassin is part of it. But then on your Servants of Darkness Mishima force, obviously you can't bring the Redemption Assassin because he doesn't fit, but you could throw in a couple of Necromutants or maybe a handful of Undead Legionnaires for some extra fodder. Like, these are things that you can do as a Servants of Darkness player with even a corporate force, but you have to do both. You have to do both no matter what. Even if you're like, I don't care, I don't want it. If you hand me a Force Org sheet with just one list on one side and then you go, oh, it's the same, I'm going to hand it back to you and tell you to write it again on the other side, because I have to make sure that everybody is following the rules, and the rules say 2 force lists. Part of that is because if you left it blank, not that I ever think anybody would do this, but if you left it blank, you could, during lunch break between rounds 2 and 3 or whatever at a tournament, you could quickly make a different list because you've seen what other people have out there. So I would never think that all gamers would do that, but I do know that there have been issues in the past when you have prizes on the line of people being a little unscrupulous. So you will have to fill out both sides of the Force Org with an Agents of Light and Servants of Darkness, even if they're the same list. But most importantly, they've got to be from the same faction. I think I've hammered that fact home enough. So this year, the 2025, the first annual, is actually 40 deployment points. We're probably, from here on out, 45 is probably where we're going to go. But this particular one, this kind of launch, this initial launch into not only Warzone Eternal tournament structures completely, but the first time we're doing Eternals, it's the first time after fulfillment where people have their minis. There are limited choices for the factions and things. So we wanted to make it a little more manageable. Normally a 45-point game would run you, normally a 90-minute game is roughly 45 points. We're doing 40 points 90-minute games because this is going to be some people's first tournament at Warzone, and we wanted to make sure that people have the time and the ability to move their stuff around and really kind of get into the game and have a good time. So that is the reason we're doing 40 points this first year. I know some people have mentioned on Discord that feels a little restrictive. That was by design for this first year. Is that it's really just kind of a let's celebrate the fact that Warzone is back. Let's celebrate the fact that Eternal has fulfilled and that the first champion is about to be crowned. So let's not worry so much about that extra 5 points in this first rendition of our wonderful, wonderful tournament. Okay, so now that we talked about the force list, the people building their list, the player. This is everything that we've got listed that the players need to make sure that they bring. Now, obviously, there's going to be some leeway because it's at a convention, and sometimes people don't have all the stuff packed, or they don't have a chance to do it. And so we're going to do our best to share things and whatnot. But normally, what I would like, if you're listening to this and you know you're coming, try and pack this stuff. First, a copy of the printed Warzone Eternal rulebook or the PDF of the rules available to you. 2 of your force lists, we already talked about that, the Agents of Light and the Servants of Darkness. You must write down on your force list a pool of 5 secondary objectives. These are the secondary objectives that you will add to your scenarios during the tournament. During the 3 rounds of the tournament, you have this pool of 5. Now, there are 2 things you're going to immediately note. Wait a minute, Brian. When you play this game, you get 2 secondary objectives. That would mean we'd need 6. Actually, no. You're only going to use 3 out of this list, because each one of the actual scenarios in a Warzone Eternal tournament comes with 1 secondary that you are automatically assigned. Normally, it's a special secondary built into the scenario, but it is already there. So you don't have to pick that, but you do get to pick one of these other 5 to fill in the blank to give you your 2 secondaries for the game. Now, the reason for that is it gives you a little some tactical adjustments. You could take some of the ones that are Agents of Light only, or take a Servants of Darkness one only, just depending on where your dice might land. Or you could just take generic ones. That is completely up to you. But you're only going to get to use each one of these once. Or you only have the opportunity to use any of these once. So you've got to choose. Maybe you take one of the secondaries that's kind of universally seen as an easy one. That's an easy one to get. It's easy points. Do you take it against do you take it in your first game to try and get a quick upper seat to score some easy points early on, or do you save it and wait for maybe a really a hard pairing that you think might be a tougher fight for you, so you want to use it to try and hopefully eke out that win against a tougher opponent? That's completely up to you as to when you're going to make those choices, but you will make those choices when you get assigned to each round. So yeah, pool of 5 that you'll write down on your list, and then as the tournament progresses, you will cross off the ones that you use because you can't use them again. All of your minis have to be Res Nova Res Nova miniatures or predominantly made from Res Nova miniatures. If they are kind of kit bashed, if you do kit bash a mini, it needs to stay the recognizable for armament and style. You have to be able to see understand what it is at a glance, and it cannot be modeled too far away from the general shape and kind of volume of the original figure for the purposes of line of sight. So if someone does make a really cool, amazing diorama style figure, it might not be tournament legal because of it being super weird and posed funny, and the tournament organizer may actually step in and go, hey, maybe have a stand-in. It's a beautiful model, love that model. Definitely make sure that it's there for the best painted award. However, maybe grab a different model for the actual game because he's lying on his belly, or he's 3 inches taller than he's supposed to be because he's standing on a tree. Whatever the case may be. Use your best judgment. We love art pieces. We love the concept of the hobby, but at the end of the day, this is still a game, and these are gaming pieces when you're dealing with a tournament. Proxies. So proxies at an official Res Nova Warzone Eternal tournament are not allowed unless the model has not been released within 30 days of its stat card being released. That won't happen very often. For the most part, Alex and I have really kind of figured out a cool system of putting the stat cards out for people to use them at the same time as we kind of set the pre-orders up for the concept is, hey, check out this cool thing that this cool new mini that you can buy, and here's the stat card for you to start testing it as you buy it. Now, in the rare chance that one of these tournaments happens and a stat card gets dropped, but the minis are not actually out yet because they're still, it's only 2 weeks after we drop the stat card or whatever, that would be an instance where the proxy would be okay. Because we understand not everybody has the chance to grab that mini the second it hits shelves. But in the case of this tournament, it's our inaugural Warzone Champions. So fulfillment will have been happening. We'll have the minis out to people. We'll have minis there at the show for sale. There's no reason for everything that the stats have been out for you to have any proxies. So in this first Eternal Champions, no proxies, no need for it. Players will need to have a pencil or pen for writing down notes and scoring games. That makes sense. I will try and bring some. God, happen again. I will try and bring some extras, but in the hustle of trying to get everything squared away, I might forget. So please, if you think about it, bring one or bring one to share. You will need at least one 20-sided die. I suggest bringing 3 for things like damage modifier, occasional damage modifiers and stuff like that. But you will need at least one 20-sided die. You will need a tape measure or similar measuring device, whether it's a measuring widget, one of the whippy sticks from the old GW games, or a regular tape measure, or anything of the sort. As long as it's something that you can measure out the inches of your movements and your ranges, please bring something like that. Or if you have extras, bring them to share with the people who forget. This is the important one. You will need at least 3 40 millimeter, so bring at least 3 40 millimeter diameter scenario objective counters. I will probably have some extras at the tournament, but to make sure that you are ready, bring at least 3, and if you know for a fact that some of your secondary objectives require you to put down extras, bring the extras as well. Basically, bring as many, bring as many as you're going to need, and then outside of the original 3, but they need to be 40 millimeter objective tokens. Whether they're cool, like sculpted, painted things that you've done to match your force, that's rad, that's awesome. Or if it is just 40 millimeter bases that you've painted a big red X on, we don't care. As long as you've got the objective counters, that's all that matters. Plus, you will need some kind of counters or markers to represent the various game states and effects possible in a game of Warzone Eternal. Things like activation, reaction, action, or activation tokens, reaction tokens, wounds, pinned, reload. That's, if you know that you are going to have faith, maybe have a way to represent that, whether it's a faith die or something like that. Just basically have everything that your force would need to represent that stuff at the table. We will have some available, but especially if this ends up being a full boat tournament, please have more. Here's a quick note on illegal forces. Okay, I'm going to read this word for word because it's very important. It shouldn't be a problem. I'm really trying to foster a cool, open, and awesome community, so this shouldn't be an issue, but I want to make sure that everybody knows so they're on the same wavelength if it becomes an issue. Illegal forces. While players are expected to be honest and forthright in how they design their force, it is the TO's responsibility to double-check that unit requirements, DP, SP math, etc. is correct. Nobody wants to accidentally throw off the findings of a game through a simple mistake, so the TO should take every measure to avoid them if possible. If a force is determined during a game to have been built non-compliant with the rules, the player with the non-compliant force must immediately, like in between die rolls, in between actions, literally at that exact moment, as soon as you guys figure out, hey, your force isn't legal, you must immediately remove units from the battlefield until their current force is made compliant. Whether that is, oh, I can't have this figure because I don't have the prerequisite, then you got to bop it. Oh, I've got, I'm 2 points over. We got to remove somebody until you're at least at 40 points or less. Oh, I took too many hyperactivator assets. One of those hyperactivator assets has to go. Maybe the model doesn't necessarily need to go, but you've got to take that off. Basically, you have to become immediately compliant, whether or not that means removing models from the battlefield. For victory point purposes, any units removed are immediately considered casualties inflicted by your opponent. The reason for that is because we came up with extreme corner cases that, let's say that there's a scenario that's about killing specialists and your opponent's only specialist ends up being an illegal figure because they didn't take enough troopers to file. So you get what I'm getting here. So suddenly the specialist is removed, and then the one player's out a specialist, but your opponent is no longer able to score those points. So instead, if the TO has to remove a model to make somebody legal, it is as if the opponent shot it in the face. Okie doke, okie doke. Battlefields will probably be set up before, so the tabletops themselves we're going to set up as best as possible during registration. Hopefully my assistants and so helpful players will be able to put a bunch of cool Tinker Turf terrain down, and I believe we actually have some other terrain coming from another, not a sponsor, but a friend of Resnova. So there will probably be some other tables that are showing some cool other terrain too. We'll have the Mats by Mars mats down, so all of the deployment zones will be visible. Super excited. It's gonna be great. But hopefully all of that will be handled before the first pairing even happens. So even if you are a player that's helping out setting up some of these tables, you will have absolutely no idea which table you are at. Okay, tournament adjudication. This is always an important thing. Sometimes the tournament organizers and the assistant organizers have to make a call because the two players just can't make a decision, they're arguing, whatever. Sometimes they got to make a call. The TO has the final say. Even if you don't like it, the TO has the final say. Players need to respect the adjudication of the TO at the table, but maybe make a note for themselves to discuss afterwards. Because TOs do make mistakes. Hopefully not very often. But you don't want to waste a bunch of tournament time at the table arguing about it. You just take it, you go, okay, and you move on, and then afterwards you go, hey, by the way, I don't like how this happened. And I think that's going to reflect very well on your sportsmanship scores and that sort of thing. But if it's just an honest mistake, these things happen, let's move on. However, if it is a mistake, if the TO or the AO has made a rules decision that has determined to be incorrect, whether it's, I said that all smoke does this or whatever, in order to be fair, that ruling must stand for the rest of the tournament. And the reason why that is because you do not want some player to feel like they got singled out or they got they got tilted over this decision, and then as soon as someone pointed out, oh hey TO, you were wrong, then now suddenly everybody else is benefiting from it or something like that. So if the TO does make a call and it ends up being wrong but not hindering to gameplay or whatever, you do need to continue using that sort of TO's call for the rest of the game. If a player is determined to have willingly broken a rule, or is behaving extremely inappropriately, or is undertaking other questionable conduct, the tournament organizer may be called upon to impose a penalty against the player. Obviously, nobody wants this. I definitely don't want to do this. They're uncomfortable. They tend to ruin everybody's time. It just sucks. So please just don't cheat and be good sports and don't be crappy players. But each penalty reduces the player's sportsmanship tally at the end by 1. And if a player receives 2 penalties during the same game for the same reason. So like, let's say someone is, someone's called out and says, hey, you can't do this, please don't do that. And the tournament organizer goes, hey, yeah, you can't do that, and you're penalized for it. And then that same game they do it again, then they are immediately removed from the battlefield, and the units are all considered to be casualties. So basically, honest mistakes are a thing, but willingly breaking rules and cheating are right out, and it will penalize you dramatically. The way that the tournament is set up is 3 rounds. Each round is a 5-turn game, or up to 90 minutes, depending on the how quickly things progress. You will always finish the finish that turn, that time. I will at like a 15-minute mark, basically we'll call out, last turn, don't start a new turn, unless you really, unless both players are like down to like 2 figures and they know they can squeeze it in. That's going to be a reminder, hey, if you don't think you can get a full turn in, don't. And that's up to you guys. Every player has the responsibility, has the ability and the responsibility and the right to say no, we're going to play right to the wire. If they want to try and eke out that win and get as many points as possible, they absolutely have every right. But we just ask that you try and be realistic with the fact that if there's 3 minutes left of the 90 minutes. And you've still got, both of you have got 4 models to a side, do not start another round, because that is going to take you forever. It's not going to get in there. You're not going to be able to get all those things, because at the 90-minute end, it's going to be each side get, basically you get kind of the last activation call. Each side gets one last activation when the game is over. Uh, let's see. If we happen to have uneven numbers, there will be a situation for a bye. The bye will get they'll get 5 tournament points, the same as a victory. But then the victory points, which is kind of the tiebreaker. I should mention that before I get off on the thing. So final scores: the player with the most tournament points and victory points, in the case of a tie, is named the tournament champion. In this case, they will be named the 2025 Eternal Champion, and they will get their name and faction on the Eternal Champions trophy, and they will get to work with us on choosing a Mutant Chronicles / Warzone unit to join the Warzone Eternal family sooner. Basically kind of jumps the queue, or if we haven't had it thought about it yet or anything like that, they get to help us come up with what we're going to do with this. I mean, it's still our design. It is still our game at Resnova to do the actual design work, but we will absolutely we'll take this person out to a dinner, and we'll chit chat with them about or lunch perhaps. We will chit chat with them about what they want to bring into Warzone Eternal, and maybe get an idea of what they're thinking, what kind of roles it might possibly play. They'll be part of the kind of initial brainstorming process, and then Alex and I will set to designing them and getting new concept art and getting a sculpt made and get it added to Warzone Eternal before the next Eternals. So super excited there. The player with the second most tournament points and victory points, in the case of a tie, is named the tournament runner-up, the Eternal runner-up. And while they will not get a chance to do the miniature queue development process, they will still get their name and faction that they played on the tournament, on the trophy. So they will be forever immortalized as an Eternal runner-up. And you will be part of the process from here on out to be, every time that we show off the tournament trophy and bring it to someplace or show it on a video or whatever, you'll be the 2025 runner-up, and it'll give us something to always look forward to for people to try and knock down one of the two champions from the year before. The player with the most sportsmanship points receives the best sportsmanship certificate. And in the case of a tie on that one, it's actually the player with the lowest tournament points and victory points, in the case of a tie, receives best sportsmanship. Now, the reason for that is that if there's a tie between two people who are amazing sports and they've had just everybody was like they're an absolute joy to play, they're amazing, they helped me out, everything was wonderful. It is harder to be a good sport if you are just getting slaughtered, or if you're losing all of your games. It is easier to be a good sport if you're winning. So the reason why the lower amount gets the tie is because they had a harder day, but they managed to stay the sport. And then we will be having in this first year at Adepticon, there will be a Best Painted award, but it is not required. It is definitely not part of the tournament score itself. It is a completely separate prize. And Adepticon is actually letting us waive the painting requirements for this first launch tournament. Obviously, tournaments from here on out will require painting at Adepticon because that's their convention rule. But this particular event, we're going to waive it because it's so brand new. We can't expect people to just slap a bunch of paint on and go, oh, okay, it's ready, and then try and compete for a painting award. So the way it's going to work this time, normally it is your whole force would be up for the painting. In this instance, if you manage to get any of your figures painted, you can put one of these one of you, like what you think is your coolest, your best painted model, or maybe your favorite model in your force, and put it forward to be judged and get a best painted award from the tournament organizers, which we will worry about that. You'll get a cool certificate, and I do believe Alex said there's going to be some additional prize support from Res Nova at this first tournament as well. And a lot of times Adepticon supplies some cool things, but I have not talked to them yet about it. So if they're there, that'll be awesome. If they're not, we'll still make sure that you got some cool stuff to go home with. Speaking of tournament points, I just realized that we hadn't actually discussed how that works. So the scenario, if you win a scenario, you get 5 tournament points. If you lose a scenario, you get 1 tournament point. And if you, for whatever reason, it is a draw, you get 3 tournament points. And that goes onto your score roster. You will also write down how many victory points you scored during the game, because while that is not a direct tally to your place, the tournament points are the more important. Victory points are how you break ties. So it is, even if you are losing the fight and you're pretty sure you're going to lose the mission or whatnot, still try and squeak out as many victory points as you can, because it could mean the difference between 3rd and 2nd place, or when you get down to the very end, it could be the difference between 2nd and 1st. It's very important to try and score as many points as possible. I know that's kind of a silly thing to say about any tournament, but in any game where primary victory conditions and secondary conditions sometimes get left behind because the primary is the most important, those secondary conditions could score you a couple of quick points that could pop you up in the rankings. Especially the more people we get, there's more likely going to be multiple people who win, and it is going to come down to those victory points to figure out which table you end up at. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We've talked about how to build your force. We talked about the setup of the games, and that your first round, your first pairing at a Warzone Eternals tournament is completely random. Basically, I'm going to take everybody's force sheets, and shuffle them up, and then I'm just going to go down the tables and throw 2 onto the table and announce people, okay, you're fighting, and then you're going to choose your allegiances and things. You're going to determine your allegiances at the table, because it depends on who you're fighting and their die rolls and that sort of thing. And then the second and third rounds, those pairings are based off of your standing, based off of how well you did in the previous match, or the previous 2 matches in the case of the third table. And to the best of my ability, I will try to make sure that people do not play the same person twice. It happens every once in a while that you'll end up, especially in the third round, that you might end up being, so first round everybody plays, all random, everybody plays. Second round, it'll be the top 2 players, the top 2 scorers, the next 2 scorers, so forth and so on, going down the tables. And the third round, sometimes, depending on how those matches end up, you might end up getting the same people back at the same table. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that if those 2 people meet up again in the third round, that we bump, basically, that if these 2 and these 2 are the same, we'll just kind of switch, so they get to fight different people. You get to play against different people, but you're still kind of within your very close competitive scoring stature. The only exception to this is the top table for round 3 will always be the top 2 scorers. Whether or not it is 2 people that have played, maybe they played in the first round, it is extremely unlikely for that to ever happen. But if it does happen, they might end up playing again in the third round, but that's only to be fair to the tournament concept itself. if the top two people, the top two scores, happen to end up back at the same table for the finals, they're going to end up fighting again. Hopefully that'll never be a case because of the volume of people at these tournaments, and the level of scoring, the score sway that happens in that round too. But just, complete transparency, it is possible for the final table to be a pairing that has already happened. It is just unlikely. And then after the 3 rounds, we tally everything up. We gather everybody together. We announce the winners. The way sportsmanship works, the sportsmanship tally is as soon as the third round, as soon as you turn in your score sheet from the third round, I will hand you a sportsmanship slip, and the sportsmanship slip allows you to award a gold, a silver, and unless that player had a bye somewhere during the tournament, also a bronze sportsmanship placement of the 3 people that they played. And basically the way that works is gold is worth 3, silver is worth 2, bronze is worth 1, points towards their sportsmanship score. And then it allows us to, after you've played all 3, to rank how you would put them. Or in the case of a bye, rank the 2 players that you gold and silver. And that's, again, a separate tally from the actual tournament standing. Your sportsmanship award is awesome. It will have its own prize. It has its own award certificate. It has its own bragging rights. But it does not pertain to the actual tournament victory itself. Just as an aside. So that's the Eternal Champions tournament in a nutshell. Super excited that here in, roughly 60 days, we're going to get to see everybody throw down and give this a try and crown our first Eternal Champion, first and second place. I am over the moon and super excited, and I can't wait to get a cool plaque to add to this for the first year. It's a little surreal that we've come this far and we're about ready to fulfill, and can't wait. So please, until then, get some practice games in, download the rules beta, start proxying a few games, get the cards, get ready for your minis. If you get your minis sooner than someone else, start throwing some paint on them, start getting them assembled, get familiar with how cool this is, and get ready to go at it at Adepticon, because Alex and I and the rest of our cohorts are super psyched. We cannot wait. It's going to be so good. Just until then, please be safe. Wash your hands. Get your shots. Wear a mask in the places that you can and have to. Realize that things might be bad right now, but humanity as a whole will always find a way to persevere, and I will help you in any way that I can. So, without further ado, I will see you next week. Just try and leave every room a little happier than when you got there, and I think that things will turn out okay. Have some fun. Until I see you again, play some games. We'll see you later.